Today, we embark on a journey into the heart of ancient Indian wisdom. We will explore a profound historical discussion between Yagyavalkya, a revered sage, and his wife Maitreyi, a seeker of ultimate truth, which laid the foundation for Advaita Vedanta and positioned women as eminent scholars in Vedic India. This discussion is preserved in the Brihadaranyak Upanishad, one of the oldest and most important Upanishads. But before we dive into their conversation, let us first understand how the Vedic texts are organized and how Upanishads contribute to the treasure of Indian philosophy. Vedas are divided into four collections: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda. Rig Veda is the oldest and longest Veda, focusing on hymns written to deities such as Indra, Agni, and Som, among several others. It also delves on origin of universe and cosmic order and provides early concepts of Atman and Brahman. Yajur Veda focuses on karma and yagya, rituals and sacrifices essential for spiritual and material harmony. Sam Veda focuses on hymns to be sung during yagya. It is also considered the origin of Indian classical music and lays the foundation for rag and swar. Atharva Veda focuses on everyday life, healing, and practical knowledge, how to conduct domestic and personal ceremonies. It also introduces concepts of skam or cosmic pillar as the source of existence. The Vedic scriptures are like a sacred tree with four interconnected layers, each guiding seekers on a spiritual journey. Each Veda contains four layers of text. The Samhitas are the hymnal roots, filled with poetic praises for divine forces, anchoring devotion. The Brahman act as the trunk, offering precise rituals to connect the physical and spiritual realms. The Samhita and Brahman represent the ritualistic foundation of the Veda, focusing on karmic practices and ceremonies. Yet, for the early Indian philosophers, these layers were only the beginning. Driven by a profound quest for understanding, they delved into deeper philosophical concepts, giving rise to the Aranyak and Upanishad. The Aranyak, like a contemplative canopy, explored the symbolic meaning of rituals, leading to deeper introspection. And at the pinnacle are the Upanishads, which are the philosophical fruit, delving into existence, the self, and ultimate reality. Over centuries, the Upanishad evolved into a treasure trove of ancient Indian wisdom, laying the groundwork for spiritual exploration and philosophical inquiry that endures to this day. The Upanishad, often referred to as the Vedanta or the end of the Ved, represent the culmination of Vedic thought. Swami Vivekanand, the renowned Indian spiritual leader, philosopher, and reformer, believed that Upanishads were key to raise the consciousness of the universal youth. In a lecture in Victoria Hall in Madras in 1897, he said, "Go back to your Upanishads. Go back to your Upanishads, the shining, the strengthening, the bright philosophy, and part from all these mysterious things, all these weakening things. Take up this philosophy. The greatest truths are the simplest things in the world, simple as your own existence. The truths of the Upanishads are before you. Take them up, live up to them, and the salvation of India will be at hand." So, what really are Upanishads? The word Upanishad comes from Sanskrit words, up meaning near and nishad meaning sitting down. Hence, it translates to sitting down near, possibly at the feet of the teacher, to understand the knowledge and wisdom of the Upanishads, symbolizing the Guru-Shishya relationship that was used to transmit this knowledge and wisdom over centuries and generations. And how many Upanishads are there? In Muktika, there are a total of 108 Upanishads that are listed, of which 13 are known as principal or Mukhya Upanishads. The Mukhya Upanishads are profound, date to about 1200 to 1000 BC, and reflect the emergence of Vedanta from the Ved. The later Upanishads continued to be composed as late as 15th century AD, with several of them focused on sects of Hinduism like Vaishnav, Shaiv, and Shakt. Vivekanand said that the theme of the Upanishads is to find an ultimate unity of things. All human knowledge is based upon the finding of unity in the midst of diversity. If it is the task of small fragments of human knowledge, which we call our sciences, to find unity in the midst of a few different phenomena, the task becomes stupendous when the theme before us is to find unity in the midst of this marvelously diversified universe where prevail unnumbered differences in name and form, in matter and spirit, each thought differing from every other thought, each form differing from every other form. Yet, to harmonize these many planes and unending looks in the midst of this infinite variety to find unity is the theme of the Upanishads. So, what do the Upanishads talk about? It is a vast variety of philosophical, spiritual, cosmological, and existential explorations. As we discussed in the Vedic tree earlier, the Upanishads shift the focus from karma or external rituals to gyan or internal self realization, focusing on the pursuit of direct experience of one's true nature beyond the mind and senses. This is a significant shift in Vedic thought, which is appreciable. The Upanishads discuss Atman or the nature of the self and Brahman or the ultimate reality and universal consciousness. This concept of Brahman is entirely different from the Varna system, which identifies with a class of people as we know it today. They emphasize that realizing the unity of Atman and Brahman leads to moksha or liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Swami Vivekanand said, "The one fact I found is that in all the Upanishads, they begin with dualistic ideas, with worship and all that, and end with a grand flourish of Advaitic ideas on non-dualism, believing in the unity of Atman and Brahman." The four Mahavakya from various Mukhya Upanishads talk about this unity of Atman and Brahman. Tattvam Asi, which reads as "that you are," from Chandogya Upanishad. Aham Brahmasmi, which reads as "I am Brahman," from Brihadaranyak Upanishad. Ayam Atma Brahma, which reads as "I am Brahman," from Mandukya Upanishad. And the fourth one, Pragyanam Brahma, which reads as "knowledge is Brahman," from Maitreyi Upanishad. With this context on Vedas and Upanishads, today we will go through a historical debate between Yagyavalkya and his wife Maitreyi that is mentioned in the Brihadaranyak Upanishad. Associated with the Shukla Yajurved, the Brihadaranyak Upanishad is considered one of the oldest and longest Upanishads, forming the foundation of Vedanta philosophy. Brihadaranyak translates to the great forest text, with Brihad meaning great and Aranyak meaning forest, probably referring to the forest where ancient rishis composed and discussed the philosophical concepts written in this text. There are several deep philosophical concepts in Brihadaranyak Upanishad. Among the well-known is the timeless prayer in the pursuit of enlightenment. Asto ma sadgamay, tamso ma jyotirgamay, mrityor ma amritam gamay. This prayer is a plea for divine guidance, seeking to transcend ignorance, darkness, and mortality and move towards truth, enlightenment, and eternal life. Neti Neti is another phrase mentioned in Brihadaranyak Upanishad. Neti or Naiti translates to not this, and is a method of negation used to describe the ultimate reality, Brahman, by negating everything that is perceived. In a deeper spiritual sense, Neti Neti is used as a technique for self-inquiry to understand the true nature of existence. The idea is that everything in the material world, objects, thoughts, sensations, is transient and impermanent. Therefore, by affirming not this, one removes identification with all phenomena, leading to the realization of the self as beyond form and limitations, ultimately reaching the understanding of one's true nature as Brahman, the formless, infinite reality. It represents a path of self-discovery where one rejects the illusion of separateness and realizes the unity of all existence. Now let us see this beautiful poetic verse from Brihadaranyak Upanishad. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Purnamadaha, that is complete. Purnamidam, this is complete. Purnat Purnamudachyate, from the complete comes. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate, when the complete is taken from the complete, what remains is still complete. That is complete. This is complete. From the complete comes. When the complete is taken from the complete, what remains is still complete. Beautiful verse on the fractal nature of existence. The verse conveys the idea that the universe, as well as the ultimate reality Brahman, is complete and whole. Even when something is taken from the whole, the essence of completeness remains unchanged. It expresses the infinite and fractal nature of the universe, where everything is part of a unified, undivided whole. This concept also reflects on the nature of the self, which is not separate but an integral part of the infinite reality. Hope you found the context of Brihadaranyak Upanishad useful. Now let us move to the historical discussion between Yagyavalkya and his wife Maitreyi. Yagyavalkya, a revered sage in ancient Indian tradition, is celebrated as one of the greatest and earliest philosophers of India, believed to have lived during the late Vedic Kal during 600 to 700 BC. He belonged to the kingdom of Videha or historical Mithila. It is believed that Yagyavalkya's Tapobhumi is in Jagban in Bisfi block in Madhubani in Mithila in Bihar. It is in this ashram where he composed several significant texts of ancient Indian philosophy, including the Shatpat Brahmana, Yagyavalkya Smriti, Brihadaranyak Upanishad, Yagyavalkya, and many others. Yagyavalkya was the spiritual guide and mentor to Raja Janak of Mithila. Several of his debates and discussions in the court of Raja Janak is mentioned in Brihadaranyak Upanishad. His contributions include the concept of the unity of Atman or self and Brahman, the universal consciousness, which became central themes in Vedantic philosophy in the centuries to come. In Yagyavalkya Smriti, he wrote a critical text on dharma, or moral law, covering subjects like ethics, law and governance, which remain influential in Indian jurisprudence. His legacy embodies wisdom, inquiry, and a quest for spiritual truth. It was during this period when we see women philosophers also gaining importance. The Brihadaranyak Upanishad records his profound dialogues on Indian philosophy, particularly with Gargi and Maitreyi. So, let us see who was Maitreyi. Not much is known about Maitreyi's family, however. Based on some sources, she was the daughter of Mitra, a learned Vedic scholar and minister to Raja Janak, and lived in Janakpur. Maitreyi was intellectually gifted and curious from an early age. Under the influence and guidance of her maternal aunt Gargi, a renowned Vedic scholar, Maitreyi developed a profound interest in theology and began her spiritual training. Her pursuit of knowledge brought her to Raja Janak Yagya and Shastrarth, where she witnessed Yagyavalkya's exceptional intellect and mastery in expounding Brahmagyan. Maitreyi, captivated by his philosophical brilliance, recognized Yagyavalkya as the ideal teacher to deepen her understanding. However, societal norms posed a challenge, which prohibited her from joining his Gurukul as a disciple who was an unmarried girl. However, she was determined. Despite Yagyavalkya's existing marriage to Katyayani, Maitreyi proposed to marry him so that she could stay in the Gurukul and learn directly from him. With her parents' consent, Maitreyi, accompanied by Gargi, sought approval from Katyayani. Understanding Maitreyi's noble intent, Katyayani supported her and convinced Yagyavalkya. After ensuring his wife's harmony, Yagyavalkya accepted Maitreyi as his second wife and disciple. While Katyayani managed the household, Maitreyi pursued intellectual and spiritual growth under the guidance of Yagyavalkya. Their marriage evolved into a partnership of profound philosophical inquiry, establishing Maitreyi as a distinguished Brahmvadini and seeker of ultimate truth. The Brihadaranyak Upanishad immortalizes Maitreyi through her celebrated dialogue with Yagyavalkya on the nature of immortality and the ultimate truth. Maitreyi's incisive questions and grasp of complex metaphysical concepts highlight her intellectual brilliance and spiritual depth. She symbolizes a seeker of knowledge who challenges conventions and aspires for higher truths, becoming one of the earliest women philosophers in India. Her relationship with Yagyavalkya is a testament to mutual respect and intellectual companionship, making her a prominent figure in Indian philosophical tradition. With this background, let us explore the conversation between Yagyavalkya and his wife Maitreyi, as mentioned in Brihadaranyak Upanishad. Yagyavalkya stood at the threshold of a new chapter in his life. After a long life of a philosophical exploration and mentoring, he had decided to renounce worldly life, leaving behind his wealth and responsibilities to pursue the path of moksha or spiritual liberation. As he prepared to embark on his new spiritual journey, he called his wives, Katyayani and Maitreyi, to share his plans. Yagyavalkya said, "I seek your permission as I am going to renounce this householder's life. However, before I leave, let me divide my wealth and property between both of you so that you can both live a comfortable life." Katyayani accepted and said that she was fine with sharing property and wealth with Maitreyi. However, Maitreyi hesitated and she had questions. She asked, What will I do with this wealth? If I were to gain the entire world's riches, would it make me Amrita or immortal? Yagyavalkya said, No, Maitreyi, wealth cannot make one immortal. It can provide comfort and pleasure, but immortality lies beyond material possessions. Maitreyi said, Then, of what use is wealth to me if it does not lead to immortality? Before you go, teach me instead the knowledge that leads to the eternal. Yagyavalkya paused, recognizing the gravity of her question. In Maitreyi's question, he saw the spark of a seeker, someone willing to look beyond the surface of life and explore its deeper truths. He said, Wealth can bring comfort and convenience, but it cannot grant immortality or eternal truth. The joy wealth offers is fleeting, tied to the physical and transient. If you seek what is eternal, we must look inward towards self-realization beyond the realm of physical possessions. Yagyavalkya said, Nava, Are sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyatam bhavati, atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyatam bhavati. It is not for the sake of all that all is dear, but it is for the sake of the self or Atman that all is dear. A husband is not loved for the sake of the husband, but for the sake of the self or Atman. A wife is not loved for the sake of the wife, but for the sake of the self. Children are not loved for the sake of the children, but for the sake of the self. Everything in this world, wealth, relationships, status, is cherished because it is connected to the self. Atman or the self is the essence of all things. Yagyavalkya said, True immortality lies in self-realization, the realization of the Atman, the self. Maitreyi asked with curiosity, What is Atman? How does one realize the Atman? Yagyavalkya said, Atman is infinite and indivisible, beyond name and form. It is not seen but is the seer. It is not heard but is the hearer. It is not thought but is the thinker. It is the eternal essence that underlies all existence. Atman is the eternal essence within us, unchanging and indestructible. Just as rivers flowing towards the ocean abandon their names and forms upon merging, so do all beings merge into the Atman, leaving behind their individuality. When one realizes the Atman, one becomes one with it and transcends all distinctions, attaining immortality. As he spoke, Maitreyi listened intently, her mind grappling with the profound concepts he revealed. She asked, If Atman is beyond all distinctions, how can it be known? Yagyavalkya said, Atman cannot be known like an object, for it is the very source of all knowledge. It is realized through self-realization, reflection, and meditation. Understand that the Atman is not distinct from the universe. It is the substratum of all existence. When one realizes Atman, the illusion of separateness dissolves. It is like salt dissolved in water. It is everywhere, but cannot be seen. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine a lump of clay. By knowing the nature of clay, one knows all objects made of clay. Similarly, by knowing Atman, one knows all existence, for the self is the essence of everything. By understanding and identifying with this eternal self, one can transcend the cycles of birth and rebirth, attaining moksha or liberation. Maitreyi asked, But how can one overcome the attachment to this world and see the Atman clearly? Yagyavalkya said, It requires a shift in perspective. Instead of seeking fulfillment in external possessions, one must turn inward. The journey to realizing Atman is through detachment, reflection, and discernment. It is avidya or ignorance that binds us to the fleeting pleasures of the world. By vidya or knowledge, one removes ignorance, just as light dispels darkness. When you understand that the Atman is eternal and infinite, you no longer cling to what is transient. You see the world for what it is, a manifestation of the Atman, and let go of all fears, including the fear of death. Maitreyi then asked, And what happens when one realizes the Atman? Yagyavalkya said, When one realizes Atman, one becomes free from dvait or duality. The knower of the Atman becomes one with it, like a drop of water merging into the ocean. There is no distinction between the knower, the known, and the act of knowing. In that state, there is no sorrow, no desire, and no separation. It is Anand or pure bliss, for Atman is bliss itself. Maitreyi said, This is truly profound, Yagyavalkya. I now understand why wealth and material gains cannot compare to the knowledge of the Atman. You have given me the greatest treasure of all, this Gyan. You can now go on your path of renunciation. Yagyavalkya said, You are wise, Maitreyi, for you seek the ultimate truth. Remember, this realization does not come merely through the words or intellect. It requires inner purity, discipline, and deep meditation. Atman reveals itself only to those who are prepared. After imparting this wisdom to Maitreyi, Yagyavalkya renounced his household life and embarked on the path of sannyas, dedicating himself entirely to the pursuit of moksha or spiritual liberation. After Yagyavalkya leaves and becomes a sannyasi, Maitreyi becomes a sannyasin herself. She left the ashram and went on her own spiritual journey. The Yagyavalkya Maitreyi dialogues were transformative, shaping Indian philosophy and cultural perceptions. They laid the foundation for Advaita Vedanta, emphasizing the non-duality of existence and the unity of Atman with Brahman, which became central to Adi Shankaracharya's teachings. The dialogues also highlighted the intellectuality of women, portraying Maitreyi as an active seeker and scholar, underscoring the respect for women's contributions to philosophical discourse in Vedic India. These profound exchanges inspired introspection, self-inquiry, and the pursuit of spiritual unity.